The government could be heading toward another shutdown. Why lawmakers are rejecting the bipartisan deal proposed earlier this week. And a dangerous drug is circulating in our area. What makes it so risky, and how local leaders are working to stop it from spreading.
And of course, we are dealing with a very cold morning. In fact, a couple of cold mornings, but temperatures expected to drop again as we get out towards Saturday. I'm going to tell you why coming up.
In-depth, investigative. This is KXAN News at Noon.
Austin police say a 21-year-old woman killed her 6-week-old son, and she is now in custody on a capital murder charge. Police say the boy died the day before Thanksgiving. Police took Jacqueline Mendoza Ramirez into custody yesterday. Back on November 27th, officers responded to a call at Dell Children's Medical Center. Police say a couple took their baby to the hospital because he was not breathing. Hospital staff tried to save his life, but he died. Police say the baby showed signs of trauma to his body. Officers are now asking anyone with information about this homicide to please contact them. Going in depth, Austin police have put out some data regarding domestic violence-related homicides this year. In 2024, 18 out of the 69 homicides they investigated have been family or domestic violence related. Last year, 18 out of the 75 homicides investigated were related to family or domestic violence. This morning, a driver struck someone and badly hurt them in North Austin. That's according to Austin Travis County EMS. The crash happened in North Creek Drive and East Runberg Lane just before 7 this morning. That's near Runberg's intersection with I-35. Paramedics said they took the patient to the hospital, and it's unclear what caused that crash. The man accused of killing the United Healthcare CEO waived his extradition. That means Luigi Mangione will be flown back to New York to face charges without more pushback in court. This morning, he arrived at a courthouse in Altoona, Pennsylvania. Mangione is charged with first-degree murder, among other charges. Authorities arrested him after they say an employee at a McDonald's in Altoona recognized him and called police. Police say that Mangione was found with a fake ID and a firearm similar to the type used in the killing.
First warning weather.
As we enter our noon hour, we are showing you a live look at DKR Stadium on the UT campus there. That is where a big game will happen on Saturday, and we will get into those details about the weather conditions here in just a moment. But Freddie, we're coming up on the noon hour, obviously, and the temperatures have climbed quite a bit from this morning when they were pretty cold. But I'm looking back here, and we have not seen much improvement in terms of the drought in our area.
You know, we did get a decent amount of rainfall, and a lot of people were really happy about that, but that did not make a dent in our drought monitor whatsoever. In fact, I have the latest one here. Will is right. Let's go ahead and take a look at what the latest information shows us. And we've seen an extension of severe conditions and a little bit of an extension in the extreme conditions as well. Not a huge change overall. We zoom out just a bit more. There's two areas we've been watching. That's here in Central Texas, and that's farther out towards the west as you get into the Big Bend area. Both of those have seen a severe lack of rainfall, and that's normal around this time of year, but more rainfall would be great, and that would help out a ton, because look at the difference between this one and last week, this week and last week. The only real big changes that we're having is around Georgetown. We're noticing it extends just a bit out towards Burnett, a bit more out towards Georgetown. And then the extreme conditions extend just a tad more, a little bit more down towards San Marcos, a little bit more farther up towards Blanco. And that's pretty much it. Everyone else is essentially at the same point. More rainfall would be great and beneficial, and we could finally move away from some of these more extreme conditions that are building along the metro area. Satellite and radar at this point, clear skies no matter where you're at, with temperatures today expected to move back up to the mid-60s. It's been a fresh day so far, but it's still sunny outside, so our temperature should be back up to the mid-60s overall. This is a live look at our 360 Cam in Westlake, sponsored by Lorenz & Lorenz. See, we're already up to about 58 degrees at this point. Coming up in just moments, we're going to talk about why you're going to need sunglasses over the next few days, why this is the perfect weekend for some football, and the rain chances, they're coming back. I'll tell you when it should arrive coming up.
Freddie, thanks so much. We are turning now to some news out of Washington. House Speaker Mike Johnson is now walking back his bill to fund the government after significant pushback from his fellow Republicans and President-elect Donald Trump. But without a bill to consider before the end of the year, what could happen to the government? Washington correspondent Basil John reports as a government shutdown looks more likely.
Time is running out as Speaker Johnson pulled his bipartisan bill back. Now he's consulting President-elect Trump's inner circle to prevent a government shutdown. House Speaker Mike Johnson is now looking at a plan B to fund the government after his first attempt at a continuing resolution failed to get enough support from Republicans inside.
I was a no before I even came into Washington, D.C. this week.
I'm a definitely lean no.
And outside the Capitol. The nail in the coffin was President-elect Donald Trump shutting the bill down on Truth Social, saying, quote, "Any Republican that would be so stupid as to do this should and will be primaried. Everything should be done and fully negotiated prior to my taking office on January 20th, 2025. Johnson's next option is a clean CR bill, which would drop some of the provisions congressional leaders wanted, including disaster aid and assistance for farmers.
Don't add one single thing to it because, again, that's the cleanest argument.
President-elect Trump also wants an increase to the debt limit, but under the Biden administration. House Democrat leader Hakeem Jeffries says his party is against these changes.
House Republicans have now unilaterally decided to break a bipartisan agreement that they made.
President-elect Trump's ally Elon Musk went as far to suggest it's better to shut down the government until President-elect Trump takes office than to pass the bipartisan CR. We don't know if and when Speaker Johnson would bring this clean CR bill to the House floor, as what he does next could affect his race to be Speaker on January 3rd. Reporting in Washington, I'm Basil John.
Federal lawmakers did make some progress in other areas, though. The Senate passed the National Defense Authorization Act. That $895 billion bill sets the budget for the Defense Department. It includes a ban on coverage of gender-affirming care for the transgender children of military service members. That can be for things like hormone therapies. Republican House Speaker Mike Johnson praised that ban, saying the bill is meant to prioritize, quote, military lethality, not radical woke ideology. A former Department of Public Safety trooper is pleading no contest in a use of force case. As a result, he is surrendering his law enforcement license. The charges for Zachary Maney stem from this Northeast Austin traffic stop in 2022. The Travis County District Attorney's Office says he unlawfully deployed a taser. DPS suspended him after this incident. The woman that Maney pulled over spoke in court Wednesday morning.
When this first happened, there were so many lawyers that I spoke with that told me, no one's gonna care, you're not dead, you didn't get shot. This story doesn't matter. For 2 years, I thought this story didn't matter. It's not the justice that I imagined, but it's still a step.
Maney received deferred adjudication probation. That is different than regular probation because if he completes it successfully, the courts can seal his records related to this case. We did reach out to Maney's attorney, but have not heard anything back yet. We have an update now on a dangerous drug called xylazine. It's also known as Tranq. The drug first turned up in Travis County last year. Xylazine is an opioid-like drug. Health officials fear it could eventually become more widespread. Unlike fentanyl, xylazine does not respond to naloxone or Narcan. Those drugs reverse an opioid overdose.
We had never seen it before, and we were right in the middle then of the crisis where fentanyl was skyrocketing. And so to have another drug that frankly doesn't seem to respond to Narcan was really scary to us.
Because xylazine is often mixed with other opioids, paramedics recommend administering naloxone or Narcan no matter what if it appears a person is having an opioid-related overdose. If you do need some help, Austin and Travis County launched an opioid resource hub to fight overdoses. It provides options for local treatment, where you can find Narcan, and much more. We have a link to that resource in this story on KXAN.com. The Department of Justice is suing CVS. It claims the pharmacy chain filed prescriptions for dangerous quantities of opioids and other drugs. The DOJ says low staffing levels and a lack of information made pharmacists susceptible to fake prescriptions. It says CVS violated the Federal Controlled Substances Act. CVS is also accused of billing federal health insurance programs for these prescriptions. In 2022, CVS agreed to pay close to $5 billion over 10 years to settle thousands of similar claims by state, local, and Native American tribal governments. However, it did not admit wrongdoing under that deal. There is a new lawsuit over the safety of a SpaceX launch base in South Texas. That suit claims that the Texas Commission on Environmental Quality bypassed a permitting process for that facility. Environmental groups and a Texas indigenous nonprofit filed the lawsuit. It claims the TCEQ allowed the facility to use a water release system several times. Now, at the time, it was still going through the permitting process. SpaceX itself is not listed as a defendant in the lawsuit. We did reach out to the company, though, and have not received a response yet.
Hey, I'm here with Alan Brown, a board-certified entomologist from ABC Home and Commercial Services. Now, as the winter months approach, Alan, what types of pests enter your house when the temperatures drop?
So we see a lot of the same pests that you may see in the summer when it gets really hot, or when it gets really dry, or when it gets really wet. But there are a few in particular. One is the Asian lady beetle. They look like the regular old ladybugs. They are really bad about coming into houses this time of year, and they will mass in numbers and get into light fixtures. There can be a lot of odor, can really start to stink. We also see overwintering queens, like the paper wasps that make the wasp nests around the house. So when it gets to this time of year, the rest of those wasps will die off, and you'll get one overwintering queen. So they'll be looking for a place. But as well as we'll see roaches coming in, spiders, centipedes and scorpions if you're in the areas that have those pests as well. So pretty much everything is looking for somewhere that's kind of warm and cozy to spend the winter.
So what kinds of measures can people take to keep their homes pest-free?
Well, the number one thing for everyone, and this is really any time of year, is trying to seal up the home to keep pests out. So sealing any gaps, cracks, and crevices around the outside of the home, making sure that the weather stripping around the doors is in good condition, so they don't have an easy way to enter the home, as well as gable vents and roof joints to try to help keep rodents out, right? That's another one of those things is, not just bugs, but also dealing with rodents coming in. Also making sure that we move things like firewood away from the home. You really don't want to store that up next to the home. Keeping any debris, anything else around the home, out away to kind of create that barrier. And then you can also then, if you wanted to, do some pesticide treatment as well with something that's repellent to, also help kind of keep those things away.
Alan Brown, ABC Home and Commercial Services. Thanks for joining me today.
You're happy to do it.
I don't know about you, but that story just makes me kind of like itch a little bit.
Yeah.
Like you can just feel things on you or something. I don't know.
I was just telling Will about a story of when scorpions were in my house.
Oh, my God.
Because I live on the west side of Austin.
Yeah.
And in the hills, there's a lot of scorpions in that area.
Much more common, yes.
And so one had crawled into my bed and stung me in the middle of the night. Yeah. There was one.
Now I have something to fear whenever I go to bed now.
Don't worry, I promise. It's only in certain spots. You'll be okay, Will, I think. Oh, I don't know. Oh, okay. Well,
I'll count on that.
Let's take a look at your calendar. There's no scorpions on here. That I can promise. Or maybe there is. Maybe I'll put one on there for next time. We take a look at your calendar for December. Okay, so you're noticing some blue, you're noticing some red, and it seems pretty even at this point, but we're going to be adding a lot more red days. You got to remember, our average temperature around this time of year is 64 degrees. And unfortunately, today we're going to be somewhere between 65 and 67. So not your red day there. And then we'll cool down for Saturday. That's good news. We'll be down to about 62, so a blue day there. And then after that, I just see red day, red day, red day, even into Christmas, red day, first day of Kwanzaa, first day, or red day. And then I expect maybe a few more red days along the way. I'm sorry, I'm only the messenger. Please don't hate me. But this is what we get to see this weekend. Absolutely beautiful sunny skies. A live view out of Lockhart right now with nothing but sunshine all across the area. That's going to continue throughout the day today. Look at temperatures right now. 64 degrees in Fredericksburg, 61 out towards Mason. Dripping Springs at about 58 degrees. As we get into Austin around 58, Bastrop at 58, LaGrange at 61 degrees in San Marcos. We're currently at about 61 degrees right now. And as we look at your evening forecast for tonight, we'll be down to 42. So still a nice cool night out there, just not as cold as what we saw this morning. So that's good news. I still expect a couple of people to be down into the 30s. A couple of cities will be down in the 30s, especially as you get out towards the hill country, Mason into Fredericksburg, San Saba. You may be dropping down to those upper 30s, but then I expect 42 for Austin overall. Now we play this out a bit more. You're noticing clear skies pretty much wherever you're at. I don't expect to see any big changes for it today or tomorrow. And Sunday we'll get some cloud coverage, but we have a front that's coming through Friday into Saturday, and that's definitely going to help out our temperatures and make it perfect for the game. Light hanging forecast to 9 a.m. We're looking at about 49 degrees as we go along. We're looking at hitting about 64 as we get out towards about 1 p.m. By 2 p.m., 65, and then we're back down again as we get to about 4 p.m. to about 63, and then we'll slowly start to go back down overall. But remember, we had the front coming in, so our temperature should be dropping. So let's show you that front. It's expected to arrive sometime Friday evening into Saturday. That means Saturday morning, it's going to be nice and cold. We'll be back down into the mid-30s across the area, and then we expect rain chances to pick up as we get into Tuesday. Keep with us. In the next half hour, we'll talk a bit more about that, but here comes that front Friday into Saturday. 36 in the morning, 62 for the Texas game, and then we're looking at 64 by Sunday, 72 as we get out towards Monday, and 74 with chances of rain on Tuesday.
As many people out there prepare to travel for the upcoming holidays, the Transportation Security Administration is going to be working hard to help keep people safe. NBC's Tom Costello went inside the TSA and the FBI's bomb detection unit, which responds to the latest threats coming from overseas and here at home.
On a highly restricted range at the Redstone Arsenal near Huntsville, TSA and FBI experts replicate explosives from the latest terror threats.
3, 2, 1.
And test the technology to spot explosive devices.
The goal is to be able to utilize the brightest and best when it comes to understanding the chemistry behind explosives and explosive devices.
The TSA's newest CT scanners flag potential explosives or hidden weapons.
Here's the 3D printed gun, small 22, two knives, and a smoke grenade.
Do you see these types of weapons every day?
Every day, all across checkpoints in the United States, and our CTs help us be able to detect these types of items.
So far this year, more than 6,000 weapons detected, another record. But it will take until 2042 to roll out the best scanners to all airports. A top priority now, explosives found this year at DHL cargo facilities in Europe, which Western intelligence believes Russian agents planted. At the FBI TSA lab, chemists and technicians recreate explosive mixtures, analyzing the chemical signatures to test airport detection systems.
The way that an explosive is molded can make all the difference. In this case, causing a significant dent in a 1-inch piece of steel. Molded differently, the same explosive blew a hole right through, causing catastrophic damage.
And the threat matrix is changing daily.
These are 3D printed firearms, fully functional, that have the capacity to function as a normal firearm.
Assistant FBI Director Eric Pokarak with a sampling of 3D printed weapons and the 3D printers they use to recreate potential threats, even a Claymore mine.
Is the 3D printed weapon or explosive one of your most serious challenges today?
It's definitely a serious challenge that we have, because they are just as lethal as traditionally manufactured IEDs or firearms.
Nationwide, the TSA is now deploying handheld explosive ingredient detectors.
The threat landscape is changing, so we're constantly trying to stay ahead of what's coming next.
and one step ahead of a determined enemy. Tom Costello, NBC News, Huntsville.
In-depth, investigative. This is KXAN News at Noon.
This afternoon, we're seeing temperatures warm up a little bit since they were very cold this morning. And we take a live look now at DKR Stadium there at UT's campus. And Freddie, I know that's where a lot of people are going to be headed this weekend for that big UT Clemson game. So many fans are going to be packing into there.
A lot of tailgating, a lot of adult beverages, shall we say.
Perhaps. Just some fun to be had.
Just some fun to be had. Just be safe if you're going to go out there. Hey, Will, I'm not the biggest football person, but I have some football knowledge to drop.
Great. We could all use some of that.
We could. You can keep this for that small talk over the next couple of days that you may have with people who do know more about football.
You're looking out for us.
Yes, that's right. So here's a look at some stuff that some details you may want to know. Hey, in case you didn't know, Clemson versus Texas. This is actually the first ever clash between the two Titans. This is really cool to learn about that. And the other thing is, based off of some of the expert opinions that I've seen out there, Texas may be favored to win this, but it's going to be a strong case for both teams at this point. And the Tigers' offense is actually best while running the ball, while the Longhorns' defense is top-notch and one of the best in college football right now. So all great information that you can use, a little bit of tidbits out there. And the kickoff is actually at 3 p.m. this Saturday. They're going to be showing it everywhere. I will be here in studio, but our studio is located just down the road from the stadium, so I'll be able to walk outside and probably hear everything that's going on there. 63 degrees for kickoff. By the halftime, we're looking at 60 degrees. That was all part of my weekend watch that you can check out. Go to KXAN.com and you can actually just search Weekend Watch and have an article on the homepage as well for you to check out. Clouds and radar, clear skies across all of Central Texas. In fact, here's a look out of our Whittlesey Landscape Supplies camera in southeast Austin with the downtown just chilling back there. It's a chill city. I like to say that. 58 degrees for Austin, 61 in San Marcos, 64 in Fredericksburg, 58 in Georgetown, and 61 in Bastrop. We may have to turn on the heater just a bit more as we get out towards Saturday morning because of another front coming up in just moments. I'll talk about the front and our rain chances that are returning.
Speaking of the chill, you led right into that, Freddie. We appreciate it. It is back in the air just a little bit. A reminder that winter weather could be on its way. The City of Austin's street and bridge operations showed us the gear that they use when responding to any kinds of winter extreme weather conditions, including something brand new this year. KXAN's Mercedes Hernandez is joining us live here in the studio again. And Mercedes, you went out there today to see what some of those preparations look like. So what did that include?
Yeah, I was out there bright and early with those guys. Thank you so much if they're watching right now. I did look into their office for a second and could see KXAN on the TV in there, and I was like,
we appreciate it, yeah.
But we do appreciate it. But yeah, those guys were super cool. They showed us all of the different utility vehicles and kind of the gear like chainsaws and chains that they use to respond to those calls for help during cases of extreme winter weather. Now, they showed us the vehicles that they use to spray that de-icing brine solution on roads and bridges. I asked how much of that stuff that they use this time of year, and they say it really depends, but on average, they use just over 800 gallons. They also showed us their pilot trucks that go around helping to trim down that debris and get it out of the roadway so those bigger vehicles and emergency responders can get through as well. And the newest addition is right there to the operations winter fleet. It was a snow plow, kind of like bulldozer. The official I spoke to says that will be used to clear streets if snow and ice ever pile up. And it is brand new. These teams just did some of their first ever training sessions with it just yesterday, and now they have 4 of those. These crews say the best thing they can do before winter really sets in and gets here is to brush up on their training and get their vehicles and their gear just ready for anything.
Training and practice pretty much gets a lot of confidence for the guys. So just want to be ready if anything, any kind of winter event does occur.
And if it does, the street and bridge operations crews monitor problem areas and respond to calls given to them through 311. That's who they say to call if you ever come across a downed tree limb in the road whenever that winter weather strikes. But of course, their biggest piece of advice is if they're out using those equipment, conditions are probably pretty bad, so it's just best to stay home. So roads, they can work on those and keep them clear for those emergency responders. Will?
Mercedes, thanks so much. We may not see much snow at all here in Central Texas, but we can see a possibility of icy surfaces, especially when the temperatures plummet, and that can be a big problem for our older neighbors. Concussion rates in older populations spike during the winter. Seniors are more prone to slipping on icy surfaces and hitting their heads. That's because they are more likely to have balance and agility challenges. An emergency room doctor says that concussions are not always immediately obvious.
They may present a day later, 3 days later, a week later, and that can be headaches, confusion, difficulty concentrating, insomnia, sometimes even depression, fatigue, trouble with balance, trouble with your vision.
People over the age of 65 are considered high risk, especially if they're on blood thinners that put them in danger of brain bleeds. If you do witness a fall, it is best to call 911 for an ambulance instead of taking them to the emergency room yourself, since there may be other injuries you cannot see. Texas's main energy grid operator, ERCOT, says to keep the lights on, the state will need to double the amount of power it produces in the next 5 years. One solution to increasing energy production could come from hydrogen. Researchers in Austin are studying cleaner ways to produce the element and different ways to use it. The Texas Hydrogen Production Policy Council would like state lawmakers to help increase hydrogen production. It recommends the state adopt an all-of-the-above energy approach to reach that goal.
If we want to position Texas as the global leader of hydrogen, then Texas needs to have as much of that clean power as possible.
The council is recommending that the state encourage expanding the hydrogen infrastructure, like more pipelines. The lack of that kind of infrastructure is a challenge for the industry that is currently facing. A closer look now at a plan to make Austin homes more affordable. Yesterday, we heard about concerns from some community groups about the lack of data on the city's home initiative. The city is hoping the series of land development code changes will increase the housing supply. KXAN's Grace Reeder got reaction to what it says about how well that initiative is now working.
We told you Tuesday night
we should be getting some numbers on
that some groups like Go Austin, Vamos Austin wanted the city to put out better data about its home initiative. That's a series of land development code changes made starting in December of last year, aimed at increasing Austin's housing supply. And applications for home are now slowly rolling in.
I think it's important for us to look geographically at where they have fallen.
Because the city doesn't have that data out right now, we put it together for you. We requested the permit number for every single home application and plugged it into the city's data portal to get things like addresses and details for the project. We put it all together for you over at KXAN.com and then shared it with builders like Scott Turner of Riverside Homes, who has previously submitted a home application.
So I would just say comparing that data that you've put together with the single family data, right, really is going to tell you how things are shifting. Are we building more in West Austin where previously those would have been single family homes? I'm optimistic that so far so good, right? It was great to see the map. And I think we're going to see those ratios play out over time.
As for whether or not these initiatives have made Austin more affordable, some say it's still too soon to tell.
Every national consultant that we had in here in Austin during the LVC process, they were very clear that it takes years for the local market to catch up to new regulations, typically 3 years.
Grace Reeder, KXAN News.
The home initiative comes in 2 phases. The first part allows up to 3 units to be built on some single-family lots, and it allows tiny homes to be considered one of those units. Phase 2 largely reduced the amount of land needed to build a home. A driverless car caught on camera avoided hitting a scooter rider in downtown Austin. You can see that right here, swerving around the scooter as that rider fell into the street. This is footage from a camera on the Waymo vehicle with a look at what it detected around it. Waymo officials say that it's always designing its vehicles to improve safety for all users, especially for those who are not in the driverless car. For some insight, since July of last year, the city of Austin is reporting 75 incidents involving autonomous cars. More than 50 of those were cruise vehicles, which have now ended their operations. 20 involved Waymo cars, and only 2 of those reports were related to crashes. For more details, visit our digital reporter Kelsey Thompson's story on KXAN.com. Going in more depth about scooter safety, earlier this year, a report from the Austin Auditor's Office found a lack of complete and reliable data for these kinds of devices. The report found that lack of data negatively impacted the city's ability to make safety changes and recommendations. The issue lies within the e-scooter companies themselves, which are asked to report data about crashes or incidents. While some have reported hundreds of incidents, others reported none. And it's not just here in Austin. A 2021 NTSB study found that problems with that data being reported all across the country. Just before the holidays, 18 kids found loving families in Florida. This was the scene in the Ocala courthouse last week. Santa and Mrs. Claus came to hand out adoption certificates to the children before the judge presented each family with an ornament that had their child's name on them. After the ceremony, the families celebrated at a party with, of course, gifts, cookies, and a photo op with Santa. The Ocala Gazette says that by the end of the event, 13 families had officially adopted 18 children. Congrats to all of them. Dreamland in Dripping Springs is closing its doors for good. It will shut down at the end of the year, according to an email from the Dreamland team. The owners say that after a period of success and growth over the past few months, they made the decision to take Dreamland in a new direction. But if you are wanting to get out there and take one last look at the park, they will be hosting the end of an era at Dreamland Bash. That's on December 31st. So if you're hoping to kind of ring in the new year and close out a chapter there, that's one way to do it.
You know, I went to Dripping Springs for the first time about a week ago.
Yeah.
It's beautiful out there.
So nice. And home to our very own Kristen Curry.
That's right. Yeah, you may see her wandering around. Hey, let's go and take a look at what we can expect for tonight. 42 degrees, excuse me, with winds coming in from the north at 10 to 15 miles per hour. And tomorrow we're expecting temperatures to rebound back up into the mid-60s, just like what we're seeing today. Winds coming in from the north. Lighter conditions overall. Your 7-day forecast one more time, 67 for today, 66 for tomorrow. That front comes in 36 as we get into Saturday morning. And then for the football game, 62 degrees. Sunday, 64. And then we're back up into the 70s as we move into Christmas Eve. Rain chances do pick up, and 73 by Wednesday. And of course, you can find all these details, excuse me, by following any of my social media that you see up on the top. Just search Freddie Vela TV, and you'll be able to find my socials.
All the ways to connect.
Yeah, for sure.
We appreciate it too. All right, everybody, thanks so much for watching here this afternoon. We will see you back here in about 30 minutes with another update. Enjoy the rest of your Thursday. Take care.